Yes, if you just want to play diatonic chords, then the diatonic transposer is perfectly fine. But if you want to create special chords inside the chain of Bitwig Studio, then the method I showed you yesterday is the way to go. Today I want to show you how you can develop this idea further and bring in some strumming effects and maybe something to fake like a real piano player. So let's start the video. If you want to save some money on Bitwig Studio and the upgrade plans, and you want to support my channel and my content, then go to my webpage, use the link to the Bitwig store there, use my code and save actually 5% on the regular price. We have the multi-note device which outputs our chords. We have in the modulator section here our Pitch-12 modulator, and still all the modulations happening for each key. So every time we press a key, the keyboard, so we can play our chords from our scale. And after the multi-note, I have still the Contact 5, the emotional piano by Sound Iron, and a small peak limiter so you can hear everything because the piano is pretty quiet. So how can we advance something like this? So the first thing is, of course, we can apply some strumming. So when you watch a piano player play a piano, it never occurs that it exactly hits the keys at the same time every time. So we have a slight delay with the key presses there. So we can do this by just selecting the multi-note and then hitting Ctrl and G for grouping. And then we created a note layer here and one layer with our multi-note device inside. Now we can unfold here the modulator section, and now we drag out this modulator, this Pitch-12, to here. And now you can see our mouse cursor has a small plus symbol on it. And this means that you now copy the modulator, but we don't want that. We want to move the modulator, and we want to still have all modulations in place. So I'm pressing Ctrl, as you can see from the bottom of Bitwig Studio. If you hold Ctrl, then we move actually this modulator. Now the plus symbol is hidden, and when we release the mouse button, we just move the modulator to the parent device. Now we can still test it. So it still works, right? The next thing we do is we add a time shift device. Something like this. We switch to milliseconds and we add maybe 10 milliseconds delay, okay? And the next thing is we deactivate these two nodes here. We just leave it at one layer. Now we go here and hit Ctrl and D for duplicate. And we have a second layer now. On the second layer, we choose 20 milliseconds, deactivate the first line and deactivate the second line. And we do this again for a third time. And we go for 30 milliseconds and just having the third key activated. So now we have 3 layers. Each layer has a different time shift delay and a different key activated. So now when we press keys, multiple keys in our chord are differently played or offset by 10 milliseconds delay. So we can increase the delay effect here a bit. Only downside with this method is you can't use maybe a random modulator here and modulate the time, the millisecond delay offset it's not possible, because I think time shift device is also used to calculate the latency of the channel. So this is not possible, but it still sounds better to play a chord this way instead of hitting all the notes exactly at the same time every time. So now that we have our Node FX layer here completely done, we can close this down. And after the Node FX layer we just created, we create another one. So Node FX layer. And inside this layer we create a pitch shifter device. And we just leave it untouched because we want to have all chords straight going through without alteration. So when we now play chords, it still sounds like before, okay? After this layer, we create an arpeggiator. And in this arpeggiator, we going down to one step and maybe choose random here. And we add a random modulator to the arpeggiator and modulate it a bit, make it smoother, and maybe go down with the velocity. So every time the arpeggiator plays a key, it's not exactly always the same velocity setting. It sounds more alive this way, okay? So now when we play a chord, we should have our chords as before, and on top we have an arpeggiator played. So it's too fast. Or maybe we make it even slower, like this. And now we select this layer here and we hit Ctrl and D to duplicate it. And in this new layer, we change the settings a bit. So we go for 2 octaves and maybe a bit faster, and we choose a different rhythm. Okay, something like this. And maybe we just duplicate this again to here. We go to in front of the arpeggiator, we add a pitch shifter device, and we go 1 octave higher. So you have to find the sweet spot so it sounds like more realistic, but I think it's a great way to actually make a piano sound rich without you knowing how to play a piano, right? So now we have this. We can also just duplicate this again, and we go back here to 0 and maybe use 3 octaves, different speed. And in front of this, we use a note length device. And this device just holds your notes basically for a certain amount of time. And how long? You can choose this here. And I go maybe for 8. And trigger on, I go to release. And this means when I press a key on the keyboard, nothing happens. And when I release the key, then this starts to play. Okay, so now I have something playing when I press, and when I release the key, this note length takes over and plays the chords I just played before. So you can see nothing happens here. When I release the key, then it starts to play. So this is great when you want to take your time between pressing the right keys on the keyboard. So in between these sections, you have basically something playing. So you can press a key, release, then still something is playing, and then you press another key. So this is maybe a great way to fake a second piano player that plays along. Okay, so with all these stuff here, it comes down to what settings you choose, which timings, how many layers you create, and how you choose the velocity and so on. So it sounds not so algorithmic, right? So you have to play around with all the settings, but all I wanted to do is to give you some ideas how you can approach such a situation where you want to create some kind of realistic piano player inside the chain. Of course, I know it's better when you can play piano. It's better when you know all the harmony theory stuff. But I know a lot of people just want to play around with the chain and want to try out some stuff, experiment, and so on. And this is also a great way to learn how Bitwig works, how the modulation system works, and what modulators are there, which devices are there, and what you can do with it. So it's all for learning purposes, and maybe it gives you a nice little trick for the next song. And that's it for this video. Now you know how you can create chords, how you can create some sort of strumming effect where every note has a slight delay to it, and how you can create a fake piano player that plays on top of your chords randomly. And it gives maybe a nice, rich, or better sound to your next piano pieces. And write me in the comments what you think, critic, and don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to hit that small bell thing. I see you in the next video. Thanks for watching, and bye.